Hello and welcome to episode 20 of the Luminosity of Free Software. So there's a few changes in what is now the third series of Luminosity, and I'll get to them in a bit. But first, I would like to invite everyone to join me in the IRC channel on irc.freenode.net in #luminosity or #luminosity. Whenever I look this way, it's because I'm looking at my computer. I'm in a slightly different room. Past series, I had some difficulty controlling the audio, so I moved to a slightly more audio-controlled space. It's not quite as I need to do some more baffling to bring down echo and whatnot, but it's a step in the right direction. And this really is about the direction I'm wanting to take the show more from hey, it's me hanging out in my home office to something a little more put together. So the new format is a 30-minute format. 3 segments in each out of a show. The first segment, well, usually first anyways, will be a tech review of some free software package. The second will be an editorial where I try not to rant too much about a topic that may or may not be technical. It may also be some of the soft side, the community side of things in free software. And then a session. So you can throw questions in the IRC channel live, or before each show, you can also send them to me by email or on Google Plus or whatever. Or if you track me down on IRC, there too is fine. So this is also kind of an exciting episode for me. That is the first one that is being supported by people on Patreon, and I'll get to that between the first 2 segments. But first, so I'd just like to say, though, thank you to everyone who signed up as a patron. It is greatly appreciated and will help the show go quite far, I hope. So the topics tonight are Jitsi Meet, which is an online video conferencing software. Then we're going to be talking about what I'm terming the Munich Syndrome, and that is, we're going to discuss a bit about protecting the reputation of free software in the free market. Those of you who've been following the news probably know exactly what the connection is and what I'm talking about when I say the Munich connection. Finally, then we'll get into the QA, and I've got a really good question up, and maybe we'll get a few more in the IRC channel as we go this evening. And if there are any audio issues or whatnot, this is a brand new setup. I tried to do as many sound checks previously, but Google Plus is Google Plus, and they have their own interesting way of doing things sometimes. So if there's any issues, just say so in the IRC channel, and I've got my trusty soundboard right here, and I can hopefully sort things out. Great, so let's dive right in and talk about Jitsi. So what is Jitsi? Well, Jitsi used to be SIP Communicator, and then they changed the name because you need a cool name. You can't just call yourself SIP Communicator. That's not cool enough. That's not hipster enough. So they changed the name to Jitsi, and they had to have, or wanted to have, video streaming as a feature. So they put in all this video streaming code to support such a thing. And they wanted to make it so that you could have your contact, on Java or whatnot, and then between the two of you say, hey, how would you like to jump on a video chat, much like Skype is known for, and be able to do that. They realized at some point that this was probably of interest outside of the instant messenger, the SIP communicator that they had, and so they pulled it out and created a new project called Jitsi Meet. So what's really cool about Jitsi Meet is, first off, it's free software. That is something that is, when you think of, good quality or high quality, easy to use video conferencing, free software is not usually where you go, and fair enough, because, well, there hasn't been much there. The other really cool thing about it is that it is web browser centric. So people are very familiar with that model now. Google Hangouts, for instance, and so they've taken the same approach, and this really helps them shortcut the whole delivery process question, because 1, people didn't have to download a client, and 2, they're using HTML5 video, which actually creates a bit of an annoyance, and it's only a short-term annoyance, but that is that it is only supported in a very small number, 2 that I know of, web browsers, which is Google Chrome and Opera. The Firefox folks still have a few things to add to the browser to have it support all of the bells and whistles necessary to make this happen, but they're working on it. It will come out in a future Firefox update. WebKit 1 browsers like Reconq, no love there, but WebKit 2 browsers, as I understand, should be able to connect to Jitsi. So if you want to try it out right away, you can head over at your leisure to meet.jit.si, and let me see if I can use this funky new, I believe it was, yeah, here it is. A new feature apparently in Google Plus, where I can share URLs with all of you. I don't know exactly how well it works, but let's try it out, shall we? Cool. So it should be visible to my audience, it says. I'll also put it in the IRC channel. So it's literally Meet that you eat, as in meeting people, of course, jit.si. So they're hosting an instance there, but it's free software, so you can host your own instance. And before we get to actually hosting your own instance, though, I will throw up I want to do a live demo of it, but then I realized this is going to be really hard to do a live demo of video conferencing while I'm video conferencing. So I decided not to, and instead I just took a screenshot of me using it earlier in my wonderful kitchen, looking fairly dead dog tired this morning. But there I am, and you can see it looks very much like you would expect from a web-based system. I have the chat section open on the right-hand side there. You can toggle that on or off. The bar at the top goes away, and when you move your mouse, it appears, slides in from the top. Really nice animations, really slickly done. The web interface uses the usual Bootstrap, JS, and those kinds of things. It does have all of them self-hosted, so it doesn't actually go out and fetch them from Google.com or whatnot. So that's nice. It's all included, or self-contained in that sense. The features are actually really quite impressive. It obviously does video conferencing, and it does it without configuration necessary. If you have a lot of video cameras connected to your device, fancy audio, this may be a problem. I couldn't find any configuration for that. But maybe that's coming. So you can send people invitations by URL. So there's a share link in the toolbar at the top, and that allows you to share the conference with other people. You can put a password on it, which the lock is, so you can have private, more or less. If the server side is set up correctly, the video bridge, we'll get to in a second, you can actually do recording of sessions as well, but it's pretty limited in features that right now it's new-ish, and it's only supported on 64-bit Linux and Mac OS. I've already seen the integrated chat window. It has Etherpad integration, which is nice, so you can share working on a document. You can share your screen, either individual windows or the entire screen. And there's also integration with Prezi.com. So if you're on there, you can do Prezi presentations. Now I took a look at the code, because that's what I do. I'll get rid of this overlay here. That's what I do, right? And I mean, the JavaScript application is a little bit hardwired in places. It's not super clean and pluggable, so that adding a new, replacing Prezi, for instance, wouldn't be. You'd have to do a little bit of work on the actual core app, but it's a small app, relatively speaking. So not a big deal, but it'd be nice to see that kind of cleaned up and plugified a bit more. But it works. That's the best thing. You get on it and it just works. Audio works, video works, and of course all the audio and video stuff is actually happening in the web browser using the WebRTC features that are new. So as I mentioned, it is free software, so you can go and host it to your heart's content. The installation is a bit tricky, and depending on which operating system you're running, it may be easy or it may be tricky. So I'll just go through really quick there's a URL that I'll post later in the show notes on the YouTube channel. But they've got documentation for installation, and it's fairly extensive, which is good. And you can't always take that for granted in a free software project. I'm gonna grab a sip of tea. I've got a bit of a thing in my throat tonight. So the documentation is clear, easy to get through, not a big problem. But it is a mix of applications, and so you're going to have to do a fair amount of setup. At the bottom of it uses Prosody, which is a XMPP or Jabber server written in Lua, which is a high-performance, lightweight scripting language for those who haven't come across it or don't play video games. It does now. Most distributions including one I use, has Prosody packages. They need a bunch of extra components, however, which may or may not be packaged, and you may need to get. Lua has a package manager, though, that makes that relatively easy. I found it a bit tricky on 64-bit because Lua, I'll leave it at that. But Prosody sets up fairly quickly, and they've got a walkthrough of the configuration file you need to create. It uses Nginx to deliver the web interface. So they've got a configuration file for that. It's basically copy and paste, put in your domain name, and you're more or less good. Then there's Jitsi Video Bridge, and Jitsi Video Bridge is the part that actually does the video sending. So the web browser captures the video, fair enough, and the audio, sends it to the video bridge, and this is all orchestrated over Jabber or XMPP. And the video bridge actually then sends the video on to everyone in the group conference. Interestingly enough, they don't do any video processing. They chose to optimize for CPU usage over bandwidth. So all the streams go to all the participants as they are. They don't do any video mixing because it takes a fair amount of CPU horsepower, and they didn't want to do that. So if you're just streaming the video, basically you're just tossing bits around as opposed to doing video processing, which is heavy. So it does mean it uses quite a bit more actually bandwidth than if they were to do video mixing, but it works. And these days, most people, even on fairly tame server packages you have, your bandwidth should be able to cover your needs unless you're trying to compete with, I don't know, Google Plus Hangouts. But it is interesting. It is good to know that they made that trade-off consciously. So then you get to install Jitsi Meet, which is a very, very small JavaScript application. You serve it up via Nginx. You don't really do anything much to it. And then you need a turn server. And this is a little bit of a little server that does NAT traversal. So if people are behind, like I am right now, and most of you probably are, behind a NAT in your office or home, it can actually tunnel the requests in the video through the NAT firewall and actually, get it out. So once you've got all those pieces done, like I said, the documentation does cover each of them, and it has sample configurations you can mostly copy and paste. You're good to go, and you have your own hosted video conferencing server. And group people, or companies I should say, like Comcast, are sponsoring development of the video bridge. So I hope to see fairly extensive leaps and bounds in the years to come. So that's really cool. Easy to use. All the essential features are there, at least all the essential features that I use. It's a little non-trivial to install right now. I think an integrated package in the form of a Docker image or some sort of container would be wonderful, because that would just render the whole, 30 to 60 minutes of faffing around installing 6 different servers to, download and run and configure and run the container. So while containers aren't the answer for everything in this case, I think it would be the answer. But it's really, really heartening to see free software finally having a quality, just works video conferencing bridge. I really urge you to go and try it out on meet.jitsi.si or meet.jit.si. When you do go there, you may go, is it running? Because you just instantly get a video conference. It's that easy, and it makes it feel too easy. You don't create an account or anything like that. You're just there. So if you see video, it's working, and you just go and you click on the share link, and that'll give you the URL that you can pass around to other people. just that simple. In fact, the first time I used it, I was a little bit, is this actually working? Because it was a little too simple, which is the way it should be. So go free software. So the second segment that we'll get to in just a moment is all about what's been going on in Munich, which isn't a technical topic. It isn't about the software that we use, but it impacts it in very significant ways. Before I get there, I would like to give a great shout out to, oops, wrong file. Everyone who's supported me on Patreon. There's 29 people so far that have pledged $1 or more per show, which is really cool. For those of you who don't know how Patreon works, Patreon is a way to support the shows that you like and that make sense to you. The way, or any artist really, doing various kinds of art, doesn't have to be online even. And what happens is you pledge a certain amount per creative work that they post. So for me, the creative works for these episodes, and you can put a monthly maximum, so you don't, if they produce 100 shows or 100 pieces of art, you don't blow through a ridiculous budget. You just say, I'm willing to give them, $1 or $3 or euros or whatever, and that happens for every creative piece that they release. So in my case, I'm doing these every 2 weeks right now to give you an idea. And there's perks. So the people here, there's actually 18 more that aren't, or when I made this graphic, there are 18 more that aren't up here. But these people all pledged at the level where they get to be in the credits. So here they are. I think this will be trickier over time as that grows. But big thanks to all of these people. Some of them will be getting postcards from me. Some of them will actually be coming on the show as guests. Preston Johnson and Eric Hall, you'll be all meeting them in the future on the episodes here. So you can go yourself to Patreon. And I'll put the link in the YouTube description below again, and if you'd like to support the show, and I'll be immensely grateful. And I'm using it to make the show, trying to make the show better and more compelling. So yeah, patreon.com/LOFS, Luminosity of Free Software. Okay, enough about that, and I won't do that every show, a big piece on that. I don't think it's necessary, but being this is the first episode where this is happening, I thought I would do so. So, moving right along to the second segment, the editorial, where I get to rant with that, hopefully not too much. And the topic is the Munich Syndrome, keeping free software's reputation intact in the free market. So, I want to go through what happened with Munich. You may or may not be familiar with it. So Munich, of course, is the city in Germany. Munich for those of you there. And they decided in 2003 that they were going to migrate to Linux and free software in general. OpenOffice, Firefox, Linux as a desktop, Linux on the server, much rejoicing was had. When they actually put out the tender to go, well, we're going to upgrade our systems, we're going to set a long-term vision for what we're going to be doing, the heavyweights showed up. And we're talking like IBM in coordination with Red Hat showed up on one side of the table and Microsoft on the other, because they were a Microsoft shop like most others in the world. And this was a major threat to Microsoft's hegemony in their eyes, because if Munich moved, why couldn't anyone else? I mean, we're talking tens of thousands of people in a very large municipal government. So this was concerning to Microsoft. Interestingly enough, all the contracts went to local, smaller companies in and around Germany, or pretty much all of them anyways, even though all the big heavyweights are at the table. They did decide to go with Linux in the end, and I mean, Microsoft took this so seriously that Steve Ballmer himself came and tried to make them a deal that he felt they couldn't refuse, which they did. So fast forward a few years, and by 2010, 7 years after the original, let's move something, what are we going to do with our infrastructure question, things were not going well. They really hadn't rolled out the Linux desktop to pretty much anyone, just a very small percentage of employees. Not even OpenOffice and Firefox were not, they're on the majority by this point, but not everyone was using it. So they reorganized in 2010, realizing that this is 7 years, we need to do something. And by 2012, things were pretty much sorted out. So by 2012, they had pretty much the majority of people using Linux desktop, and everyone was using OpenOffice and Firefox. So hooray for that. And by 2013, it has kept rolling out to the last few people. Now they're in the process of actually upgrading some of these systems. You may have heard that they recently went out and tendered for groupware, and a free software groupware system, Colab, won that bid under the auspice of Collab Systems, also here in Zurich, Switzerland. So they released a article, kind of a state of the union of Munich IT, and they noted they saved over 11 million euros, which is 14.2 million US dollars today in today's money, thanks to this transition. So if you include even right back to 2003, which isn't really fair, you're looking at significant annual savings of over 1 million euros per year. That's not bad. So the success, of course, was a huge threat to Microsoft. If Munich can do it, why anyone else can? And now it was showing that you could do it. They successfully hit their targets, and they saved tons of money. Okay, so what did Microsoft do? Well, they did a few things. One, they said, well, we're going to move our headquarters, our German headquarters, to Munich, conveniently. And then a new mayor came in, and this mayor said, oh, wow, now this sucks. Everyone is suffering by using free software. None of this is politically motivated at all. I would not be surprised in the least if there was backroom dealings and influencing going on behind that announcement. But his complaints were, oh, well, we can't open all file formats. Yes, that's actually a problem Microsoft created with Office and the proprietary formats and their horrible specification, even though it's open now. And he also said that he couldn't get his email comfortably on his phone, which is funny because they were using a proprietary groupware server up until that point. So why would he blame Linux? Because, well, he's a politician. What does he know? They're only now moving to a free software system on Linux. So this, of course, got picked up by everybody in the media. They went nuts with it. And what should be a shining example for Linux is now has this pall, the shadow cast over it. That is, well, we're maybe moving away from Linux. That's the message. People are suffering because they're using it. Is it worth $11 million? So what do we do with that? Because we don't do anything, then it's going to be really hard to hang on to high-profile customers like Munich if you want to view them as a customer of free software. But it'll also be, I think even more importantly, really hard to take what should be a beautiful case customer case study and go, look, here's Munich, it's wonderful, and use that to propel other projects in other cities and regional governments around the world. It's been tainted. Now, this got picked up by all kinds of media who spoke to people in IT across the world, and this became, it was big news. Of course, it's all rubbish. And there was some really good rebuttals. Georg Rewe from Collab Systems did a really nice write-up. This got picked up by media as well, but a different segment of the media, the free software media. In other words, as good as it was, he largely, although not entirely, was speaking to the choir. It's not going to reach the people that really needs to reach, which is probably the people who heard the negative news only, those that would be in IT departments, say, of other cities. So, well, what can we do? And so here's my suggestions. This is the editorial segment, so I get to make suggestions. And you can disagree and tell me all about it. But here's what I think. One, our first option is to do what we're already doing, because that works really well. Not really. Second, we could hope and pray that we find a corporate overlord that pours all kinds of marketing money and whatnot into it. We've been waiting for a long time for that. A lot of them seem very content to let it idle. No one's really spoken up about the Munich issue. Not a lot of champions for the desktop side, which is the real battleground in Munich for free software anyways. it hasn't happened yet, so we can keep waiting. The other option, this actually came from discussions that Marcel Gagne and I, if you know, follow him as a writer, we had discussions years ago now, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago at this point, about similar topic, well, basically this topic. And one thing that he brought up that I thought was really insightful was that there's milk and dairy boards, at least in North America, and I'm sure elsewhere in the world. And what they are is they're the marketing arm of the milk and dairy industry. Now, why do they have this? They're not owned by any given company. They just promote milk products. The reason for their existence is that traditionally you have lots and lots of milk producers, and they're pretty small, and they supply lots and lots of cheesemakers, or maybe just a few cheesemakers. But it's a highly decentralized industry, much like free software. But they have a lot of money. It's a national industry. Lots of people drink milk and eat cheese, right? So there is money being made, like free software. So what they do is they pool money together as an industry and fund an organization whose sole job is to address issues impacting the public image and shaping the public image and creating marketing campaigns around dairy products. And it's extremely successful. Got Milk, if you know that one, there you go. That was them. It works. Could we have a milk board for free software? One where lots and lots of smaller companies, or even individuals, could pay into and create a marketing arm that isn't concerned about which Linux distribution you install, or if you install Linux at all, maybe use FreeBSD or something. Not really hyper-focused on either server or desktop or mobile, but really looking at everything and looking at the marketing side of it. And Linux Foundation is not this. They're industry-focused. And they do great work, but they're not focused on standing up for the public image and creating successful public image campaigns for free software. The Free Software Foundation is ensconced in their usual political campaigns. Free Software Foundation Europe, which I find much more pragmatic, is also, I mean, besides being limited in the funding what they also have their hands full with practical, pragmatic things that they're taking on. It really sounds to me, pardon me, sorry. I said I have a thing in my throat. It really sounds to me like we could really use a milk board or dairy board analog in free software. So there you go. That's my feeling on that. We're going to move right on to the question and answer section now. I got a really good question from Wolfgang Romy, who is one of the patrons on Patreon. Thank you very much, Wolfgang. He asks about Bodega and its future. So for those who don't know, Bodega is a digital warehouse, an app store, but you can sell books and music, anything else you wanted on it, that I was involved in the creation of. We started it a few years back, and we did the first release last year. The first stable release, I should say. We did a number of releases, but the first 1.0 release. And it was originally designed and worked on in tandem with Plasma Active to support it. It goes far beyond what other stores out there do right now in the free software world, whether that's the KDE Look or the OpenDesktop.org sites, or the Ubuntu store, these things. It's distribution neutral, 100% free software, front and back, well documented, highly unit tested, reasonable things, scalable, etc. So so what is its future? Will it have a future now that my hardware projects have fallen through? First off, Plasma Active itself is also being worked on. They're actually porting it right now to Frameworks 5 and Plasma 5. And Bodega, it's a good question. I haven't really decided yet, what my involvement and role in it will be. But it is its own project. It's still there on git.kde.org. It works as well now as it did 3 months ago, 6 months ago, 12 months ago. It's there for the taking and the picking up. Currently, I'm not focused on it as much as I was. That may change in the future, especially if there is interest. I know there was interest from the OpenSUSE community to look at adopting it. I know that there's some interest in the KDE side of potentially picking it up. And it's not specific to any desktop environment, or it's not even specific to the desktop. You could use it, OpenWRT could use it to ship add-ons that people could access through a web browser and install on the device. So lots and lots of possible usages there. I don't have immediate plans to work on it, but I think it's still viable. And if someone wanted to work on it, they'd be more than welcome to, and it would be nice to actually see that happen. I'd be happy to help them. There's a number of to-dos that could make it even better. It is fully functional right now. There's nothing really missing from it. It could just be even more awesome. So I hope that answered the question. And I think that maybe there was one of the other topics in the Munich Syndrome, or for the editorial section, was funding free software. And the Munich Syndrome, and it tied in the voting in the poll. So I actually picked the Munich Syndrome because it was topical. But in the funding free software, I might come back and talk a bit about Bodega in that section a bit more, and use it as an example of the pros and cons of some funding models, as well as look at what's possible. Which actually brings me to one more little Patreon thing before we sign off here. We're at the half-hour limit already. Time flies when you're having fun. The patrons that pledge at least $1 per show all get to vote on the topics for next week's show. So, or the next show, which may not be next week. So I will be posting probably around Wednesday or Thursday of the coming week, next week, a vote, a poll for everyone who's a patron. They can go on and they can pick between 3 software products, free software products, of course, and 3 editorial topics, and they get to pick. So if you'd like to help shape the future of the show, that's also a really cool way of engaging with you. Thanks to everyone who showed up. I see that some cool tried it in Google Chrome Mobile, it being Jitsi Meet, and it tells it only works on Chrome. It really only works on Chrome. And they mean very recent desktop versions of Chrome. The Chrome Mobile, it doesn't have the pieces built in by default anyways. I don't know if that's a build thing that they have, or if there's actually some limitations in what is supported on the mobile side. But yeah, it doesn't work on mobile, which sucks. This will all work itself out though, because WebRTC stuff is coming to all the browsers, so it'll eventually work on mobile as well. So with that, I will sign off. Thank you everyone who showed up for this evening's episode. Well, evening for me, might be morning for you, might be a different day altogether. But thanks for joining. If you have questions and comments, again, please leave them in the YouTube channel, or find me on Google Plus or by email. apsycho@kde.org will reach me most times of the day. And I'll see you in episode 21.